Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Here we are with an amazing conversation that we have within the 100 Women to Watch campaign. And of course, because this is about collaboration and co-creation, we have someone that is responsible for us gathering here today, who raised their hand, said yes, and then was like, hey, let's talk about that. And that person is Ashley Holmes. Ashley, thank you so much for inspiring this. Where did it come from within your journey, and what would you like people to get that are here joining us and listening in?
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. And the topic of forgiveness really came from me being a holistic fertility coach and how much, especially women, if the issue lies with them, can really hold on to feelings of unforgiveness for themselves, perhaps their partners, their experience, and it can really affect the trajectory of where they're hoping to go. And just wanting to bring some light to that, that yes, it's natural to have all of our emotions along the way, but also we also need to give ourselves a lot of self-compassion and self-love for where we are in the moment and not take it forward with us, to show up present in each and every moment and allow new experiences to lead us forward.
Beautiful. Thank you. And, you know, as you introduce this topic, there's so many things that are coming up, over here. I'm wondering, as a woman, and I would love it if you could start us off with the first question, which is, how do you personally define healing, and how is that different or not different from forgiveness? Because those two words, they float out there and sometimes they're used interchangeably. I'm curious for you what the difference or not or similarities are between those two.
I think there's a big difference between the two personally, and for me, healing comes with from within, and we all have the ability to heal ourselves, and that is a big passion of mine, is to help people awaken the inner healer within them, because often we don't realize how powerful we are and that we do have the ability to take our health, healing, and happiness into our own hands. And so to me, that is really important because often we're giving our power away and giving away our whole reality to other people and expectations and just living outside of ourselves instead of inside of ourselves. And so forgiveness to me also is only necessary if there is a wound, because no healing is required if there is no wound and no hurt there. And so that is more of an Eastern perspective that I have been embodying this year. And it really does sit well with me, and I have goosebumps. So I love that I am sharing that today because it's not typically the way that we approach things.
Beautiful. Thank you, Ashley. Anyone else have any feelings about that?
Well, I think, quite frankly, that healing and forgiveness are both internal processes. I believe that they're related because very much we should see, and again, my opinion, that forgiveness is the opportunity for our own healing, for the extent to which we have figured out that there is power in forgiveness, and that in the process of forgiveness, that it's more about us and the extent to which we can monitor and change our feelings within about whatever the situation is. Healing is essential. And I hope we all have a chance to talk about the power of healing, not only the extent to which we look at the process of receiving healing from people, such as members of our esteemed panel, but also that we begin to see that there's an opportunity for our self-healing in terms of whatever is happening. And I do believe that this self-healing process that I'm talking about is extremely linked to forgiveness, and the extent to which that we see forgiveness as a process that is very much a part of ourselves and what we need to do to heal the wounds, as Ashley said. It was a beautiful statement, to heal the wounds that we have inside, and that it is definitely a situation that is more about us than the other person.
Wow. Okay, that's a little reframe there, right? For some people who are thinking that forgiveness is for the other person, that there's dual ownership in this. That means also that there's dual benefit. Got it. Got it. Rhonda or Amy Sue, how are you feeling about this topic here?
For me, I agree with everything the lady said. I also have my own take on forgiveness and healing. I believe that they are they you can't have true healing without forgiveness. I think that forgiveness is a part of healing. In the sense that if I can't forgive myself for the things that happen and I can't forgive other people for what happened, then I can't truly move forward and I can't truly heal, because the forgiveness piece is what allows me to be able to put that to rest. Because if I don't forgive myself, I can't really let it go. And if I don't forgive the other person, I can't really let it go. And when I can forgive myself, it's easier to forgive the other person, or vice versa. So like what I mean by that is, understand, for me, I've had to do a lot of forgiveness in my life. I've had a lot of abuse and trauma in my life. And the thing that has helped me the most with forgiveness and healing was realizing that everyone is always doing the best that they can in any given moment. Now, their best may look absolutely awful and atrocious to me and to other people, but people have a different evolution. No two people are the same in what their views, their come from, their raising, all of these different things factor into why they are doing the things that they are doing. Their past traumas, their past hurts, their wound, all these things. When I understood all of this, I was able to forgive people because they don't really know what they're doing. And in chance, I can also forgive myself because I don't really know what I'm doing. A lot of my hurt got spilt onto my children. I've had to break lots of cycles. I've had to change things. I've had to heal things because of things that happened to me. Not because I was a bad person, but because bad things happened to me, and in turn, I spilt that onto them, right? And so in being able to forgive myself, then I'm able to stand in that place and really offer that moment for them to be able to not take that on the way that I took it on and then spilt it onto them, right? So I'm able to break that pattern there. And that comes through being able to forgive. And so for me, I think I can't really truly heal if I don't forgive. So I think that forgiveness is an essential step in the healing process. And that's the only thing that I would add.
It takes a lot of bravery to make a statement like that, Amy Sue. So thank you for being here and your, in the totality of you, and sharing your vulnerability with your healing process. And we've got some comments that are coming in from our live audience. Noreen says healing is seen as part of God's nature and covenant with his people. This is something that we can reflect on too here in our conversation. Rhonda.
Yes, I want to talk about that. So yes, healing is part of God's nature and covenant with his people. And since she talked about God, I just want to say in reference to that in the spiritual realm, for those that do believe in God, when we go through trauma or people do things that we need to forgive them for, those are things to deter us. Those are things to keep us stuck. Those are for things that we give power over us. And when we do that, we are not fulfilling what God's purpose is for us. And in terms of healing, I want to say that healing is not linear. Healing is not linear, meaning that healing is different for everybody. My process of healing may be different from yours. And for God, He gives us grace, and we have to give ourselves grace. So, depending on our situation, I may have a trauma. So, I may have triggers that I may not have completely dealt with. So, I might have to revisit steps in my healing process, and that's okay. So we also have to give ourselves grace. And not only do we have to forgive individuals for what they have done to us, whether it has been a trauma or whether it has been other situations, we have to forgive ourselves. That is a very key component. Whether we have shame or guilt, or whether we blame ourselves for how we handled situations. And until we forgive ourselves, we can't move forward on our healing journey. And I know for myself as an individual, that was something that I had to learn. I was able to forgive. I'm a sexual abuse survivor, and I was able to forgive my perpetrator. But the thing that was keeping me stuck was forgiving myself. I kept a secret for over 40 years that I had kissed my perpetrator, and I kept that shame. And once I was able to vocalize and share that secret, then I was able to move forward and then able to forgive myself and be able to work on my healing journey.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing here. We got another comment here. Noreen says healing and forgiveness are partners. First, we have to forgive ourselves so that we can forgive others. He who loves much forgives much. Got it. Got it. I'm curious too, just a question to pose to everyone. Like, what is something that you wish that people understood about the timing of healing? Rhonda started to talk about how, it may not be a linear process, but perhaps there are some other factors that are weighing in there, like time. How are we feeling about that?
Well, I think oftentimes, and I'd love to build on something that Rhonda said, that seeing the process of both healing and forgiveness as not a linear process, and that there is what I like to say pre-work, the work, and the post-work in terms of especially in terms of forgiveness. And I think sometimes we're inundated, in my opinion, incorrectly, that forgiveness is kind of you're at a stop sign and you've arrived. And I don't necessarily see it that way. I see forgiveness as a process, as Rhonda talked about it. I see that in various points of our lives, we may find ourselves in feeling and having thoughts and feeling states and even behavior that is aligned with a certain point in our forgiveness process. And we know, and I think it's important to bring this up, that forgiveness has a important impact on our mind, body, and spirit, including physically. If we look at some of the work done by the Forgiveness Project at Stanford University, they talked about the extent to which forgiveness has an impact on our physical body, the extent to which things like medical problems, high blood pressure, things of that nature, has been found to be aligned with forgiveness. So forgiveness is not only a spiritual and mindful and emotional process, it has important physical ramifications. So I think we need to re-examine how we approach forgiveness, that it is not a linear process, as Rhonda articulated. It is a transitional process where at one point in our lives we may find that we can even allow ourselves to approach forgiveness and feeling that forgiveness is possible to that person, especially in the victimization, such as Rhonda so courageously uh, uh, um, shared with us. But I do think that it may take time. Maybe a year or two may pass, and then we can move from acknowledging that maybe we would consider forgiving that person. And let us not forget, we're talking about it in terms of the I, but let us consider that we may need a trusted friend or
Mhm.
a good confidant or mentor or even a counselor to help us in this process, so that we have a person that, or even in a group setting, where we can begin to articulate some of our thoughts and feelings and come out of the closet again, as Rhonda mentioned, come out of the closet with some of these innermost feelings that may be aligned with guilt, with shame, with anger, with all sorts of feeling states.
And I would like to piggyback on what you just said. So, with this, not forgiving has, as you just said, has impact on our physical health. It has impact on mental health. It has an impact on relationships. It has an impact on how we deal with our children. It has an impact on how we deal with our families, our relationships, our careers. It also shapes how we navigate our lives. So it has an impact on so many things.
I would just love to jump in and add here that from a yogic perspective, it's called samskaras in our mind. So when you have, say, a traumatic event happen, this is going to leave a deep mental groove or impression in your mind. So healing really is lessening the charge from that mental groove until it's just very subtle and slightly there. It may not ever be totally removed. And clients often say to me that, I thought I dealt with this. I thought I healed this. I thought I worked through this. Why is this showing up for me again? And it's just a different layer of it and probably at a lesser intensity, but it's not a one and done thing. And that we're never truly there, or we're never truly, we're trying to reach a state and point that isn't necessarily there. It's a process. We're growing, we're evolving, but it's kind of like a spiral, and you're not ever at the same point that you once were. You're bringing a different awareness and consciousness to every single moment.
Ashley, I'm curious, especially since you coach people on a fertility journey, like there might be people who are trying to hurry up the process, like, okay, we need to do this now. Like we need to be finished with this now. Like, how do you address that, especially when we're talking about how this is not a linear thing? And also that, timing is something really special, in this particular realm. How do you deal with that when that comes up?
It comes up for every single woman that I work with, because they want this to happen on their timeline and not the divine timeline. So there's a lot of need to let go and surrender, and bringing in that balance to the mind, body, and spirit, because they're bringing all the masculine and yang energy to this, to trying to conceive. And we need to bring in the feminine and the yin quality and have balance with and harmony within our systems. And so it's a process, and most people are used to ticking boxes, and that's how we get things done. But in order for this to happen with ease and for it to be natural, then we have to bring a different energy and dynamic to it.
Got it. Got it. And I mean, we've got a whole lot of different perspectives here, right? All of us are coming from a different lens, not just because we're separate human beings, but also we have this experience that, just tells a totally different story. And at the same time, it seems like there are some things that we can agree on, some underlying things that impact a person's journey, in this space. Dr. Sunday.
Yes, I wanted to kind of step back a little bit. We've been having a wonderful conversation, and just say this: some people know the trauma that they've been through, but a lot of people don't know the awareness of it until, like in my case, until successful and making all this money and people have you on different platforms and you like, wait a minute. So I wanted to kind of step back a little bit, because a lot of people are walking around right now as we're on this broadcast, this wonderful platform, and they don't know why this is happening. And in their kids, for example, as we mentioned, we don't know why that they want to gain weight, they want to lose weight, they want to go to the next level in their business or in their corporation or wherever they work, because they're not aware of it. And I think all of us on this platform have great missions that God has given us to help people identify that, but we have to do that for ourselves. It used to be, I can't remember, was that in the 90s? Or was that early 2000, the whole thing was changed. But in order for us to change what we're looking at in the face, is we need to be aware of that, because a lot of people are not aware of what that trauma was. The famous, everybody said, what happened before you were 7 years old, which is so true. But the thing about it, sometimes we're not triggered until we get in business. Sometimes we're not triggered until we have a baby, right? I have clients that it didn't really show up until we're in the labor and delivery room. You see what I'm saying? So I think with, a little bit of context of, a lot of times you're not aware of that, but please be gentle with yourself. I think, I can't remember who said that, but have grace with yourself, because there's a lot going on in the world. And it's still going to be a lot going on in the world, but what peace we bring to the table, what rest we bring, and what ease we bring, and be gentle with yourself as we continue to say that. And I love how we've said it over and over in the conversation, which I must say as well, that it is a process, and you have to give yourself grace that this process is totally different from my sister. It's totally different from my brother. It's totally different from who I see on social media, which is playing a big impact, no matter how we want to look at it, with ourselves, with our kids, and just people. But I just wanted to dive that in. We're having a great conversation, but a lot of people don't even know that awareness until they have that trigger. And we need to make sure when that happens, whatever that is for each individual person, that we have grace with ourselves and continue to do it in a process, one day at a time, as the old hymn says.
Thank you, Dr. Sunday. What you're saying is really profound, right? And here's one of the biggest takeaways that I have from what you just shared, is that sometimes it doesn't come up until people are on the table. Like, seriously. And Ashley, this is dipping into your world too. We have a capacity, right? We have our perceived capacity, and then we have our actual capacity, right? And if our perceived capacity is that we don't have room for the truth, then it can look like that. So thank you so much, Dr. Sunday.
Yes. And may I add, Dr. Sunday, to your most eloquent explanation and discussion, to say that part of the way that I approach forgiveness with my clients, and quite a few of my clients are struggling with forgiveness, especially couples where there has been stepping out of either the man or the woman. But one of the things I talk a lot about in my book is this idea of what you talked about, this kind of, it's almost like pre-work, and getting to the point where we can own and validate the extent to which we have undergone some type of traumatic experience, and that it was not our fault, that it was something that was done to us. Again, in my own experience, I have worked with some adolescents that have gone through sexual abuse, and they come with the idea that this was something that they were told that was part of their growth and development, that their perhaps their mother's boyfriend or their fathers told them that being sexually abused was something that was part of what it is that they needed to go through to approach their womanhood. So you see, we have to, in many ways, undo or revisit or change the information that we have been fed, the distorted, the wrongful information that we have fed. And I believe that this is part of the pre-work that we do in the whole forgiveness path. I want to just support those that may be out here on this call, on this beautiful, beautiful panel. And again, Ashley, I thank you for your insight and for your leadership in this, because we need to talk about it. I think we have come to the point in our society that we think maybe we don't need to talk about it because we have Me Too. We have the women coming forward who were abused in the Epstein horrible situation. But I think it needs to be talked about even more, because there is a sense I have with many of the women that come to me in my practice that they don't have permission. They don't have a sense of validation that they can come forward with their pain and with their hurt. And so may we, not only our panelists, but those that are here listening to this, be reminded that we can open to doors to this pain. We can say to people, we understand what was done to you. It was not your fault. It was what was done to you.
Thank you so much for weighing in, Lorna. This is a topic that has a lot of weight. Amy Sue, we were having a conversation about the many stories, that you can tell about, liberation from unforgiveness, and how this is a process that people can embrace from your specific experience. Is there any of those that you would like to share for anyone that's listening at this point?
Wow, there's a lot. Like I said earlier, the whole reason why I got into helping other people get set free was because of my own personal traumas, which there's been many. And the thing that I have learned the most in the forgiveness process is, like, all you ladies have hit the points. Like, you have to have awareness, but sometimes you just don't. Sometimes our minds, they keep us from understanding what happened, right? So you have all of these things. You might have anxiety. You might have these fears that you just don't understand why you're acting the way that you're acting. And you've done everything in the world, physically, knowingly, that you can to feel better, and it's not happening. And then that's when you have that undercurrent. There's something that you don't know, right? And then we think, well, if I don't know it, I can't heal it. I can't forgive. I can't do anything, right? And that's not actually true. It's something that we have been told, right? But the reality is that you don't always have to know. That's why we have energetics. We're energy beings. We are souls living in a human body, and your soul has the ability to let go of things without even knowing. And then as those things get let go, like, you remove the energy that is creating the panic, the fear, the whatever, then those things can come up to the surface, because sometimes it's so intense. If you've had a trauma and you don't remember it, it was bad enough that your mind had to wipe it out of your memory to protect you, right? But you still have the feeling in your body. The body tells the story. And so through doing that work, you can then allow for those things to come up, and then you can actually see what you need to see so that you can release it, so that you can do the forgiveness piece, right? Because you don't know what happened. And so there's that aspect of it. And then there's the, it's hard to forgive. Like when you find out something really bad happened, like, especially if it's your parents, like in my case, my parents did some really atrocious things to me. And how do I forgive that? They were supposed to love me. They were supposed to be there for me. They were supposed to protect me and honor me and, and teach me the ways of the world. And they didn't do any of that, how do I forgive that? I don't want to forgive that. I didn't want to. It's hard. It's like, I felt like I needed to hold on to the thing that they did so that I don't get hurt again. And that's really what it was about. It was about that. A lot of times when we hold back forgiveness, it's because we're afraid that if I forgive the thing, I'm somehow going to forget, and it's going to make me vulnerable to that pain and that hurt again, right? Yes. And that's not actually really true, but that's what we tell ourselves. And there's all these stories that we tell ourselves. Everybody's got a story about why. I can't forgive because of this. I can't do it because of this. Or, they don't deserve my forgiveness. If I forgive them, I'm letting them off the hook somehow. No, baby, you letting yourself off the hook. Yes. Forgiveness isn't about that other person. Forgiveness is about you, because when you don't forgive, you're the jailer at the jail cell. You're holding them accountable, but guess who's holding them accountable? You. So you can't move either. You're sticking yourself with that person, and neither one of you can move forward. Yes. Because you're bound together, right? So your forgiveness, you're forgiving them, is really about you, so that you can be free. So that you're no longer being controlled by what they did. You're no longer a victim to their circumstances. What they chose to do to you is not your fault. But when you hold on to it and you keep it, then it becomes your problem. And so when you forgive them, you're releasing yourself from the burden of holding their stuff. Yes. And it really does set you free. And that's why forgiveness is such a crucial part to your healing. And then being able to forgive yourself. Like the one, I forget which lady it was speaking about the self-forgiveness. Self-forgiveness, if I can't forgive myself, then I can't move forward, because I'm kind of, again, I'm stuck, right? Like, well, if I had done this, if I hadn't went down that alley, if I hadn't worn that dress, if I hadn't have went to that party, if I'd have done what my mom told me to do, if I'd have just did this, we all have these reasons why we want to blame ourselves. And again, why do we want to blame ourselves? Because we're looking to control it. We're looking, if I can blame myself, then that means I can be responsible and I can stop it from happening again. And so these are all self-preservation, self-protection mechanisms that we're going to use, and they're natural, but they don't work. They'll work in the moment, but then you have to let them go. They're not going to work later on, and especially like when we're children. As a child, I couldn't get mad at my mom. I couldn't get mad at my dad. I need them to survive. They are literally the gods of my life. I'm not going to live without them, right? And I need them. And so anytime they did something to me, I can't blame them. I can't get mad at them. So I'm gonna do one of two things. I'm either gonna turn on myself and abandon myself, or my mind is going to just put that away so I don't have to deal with it, because I need to survive. And that survival program is going to kick in. And then later on, I'm gonna have to flesh that out so that I can be the wholeness that I am, be who God created me to be, right? And that's why that inner child work is so important. But and those are the pieces that really helped me to be able to forgive. And then even deeper than that, I later learned there's really nothing to forgive, because they didn't really mean to hurt me. It was never really about me. I'm holding all of this stuff and made up all these stories about why they did what they did, and all these stories about them. And it's those stories that I made up about what happened that's creating my suffering. And when I can let that all go, then I don't have to suffer anymore. Yes, this terrible thing happened, but it wasn't because I was bad or I deserved it or I wore the wrong thing. There was no reason for it. I didn't do anything to create it. It's not my fault. This person chose to act that way because of whatever was going on in their world in that moment. And it stops there. Like, I saw a video the other day that like blew my mind, y'all. And I just wanted to share it because it was so impactful. There was this guy and he had gotten robbed. Okay, this was his story. His door was unlocked and a guy walked in and he came in and he stole his TV and he left with it, right? And it seems really simple, right? And then this guy, he's holding this story. He's like, I got robbed. This person just came in and just stole my stuff. I got robbed. Now he's living in fear that he's going to get robbed again. He's checking the doors and making sure they're locked. He's putting on other locks. He's doing all these things to make sure that he's not going to get robbed again. And then one day he realized, oh my God, I'm living a life of fear because a man came in and took a TV out of my house and I'm calling him a robber. And now I'm afraid that I'm going to get robbed again. And he said, I'm going to change my story. And he doesn't say he got robbed anymore. He said his door was unlocked. And one day this guy just walked in and just happened to take a TV and just leave with it. And now he doesn't have to be afraid. He doesn't have to be anything because he changed his story.
Yes.
And that's the power of your story. The story that you're saying about what happened to you. It can either set you free or it can keep you stuck.
Yes.
And it can create that suffering in your life. We were not meant to suffer. Bad things are going to happen, but suffering is optional.
Yeah.
Not necessary.
All right.
Thank you, Amy Sue. Woo. Okay. Right. Thank you so much. What you've really encapsulated there is a lot of how forgiveness and healing what it can look like on a personal level, right? There's so many different ways that healing can occur, and I'm curious, just posing this question to everybody, what does forgiveness look like in a community or collective setting, especially when there's harm done on a larger scale? Because there's so many stories, so many perspectives, so much that comes into play. I'm curious, just asking everyone, what can that start to look like?
Well, I'm going to build on something that Amy Sue said. And may I quote, since we are bringing in some of the spirituality and religious dogmas that we're familiar with, but I'm sure you all have heard, as a man thinketh, so is he. So if we're thinking about, or if we're considering forgiveness in terms of a community viewpoint or part of a larger community, I think some of the very initial pre-work, and you hear me talk about it because I do tend to be a bit focused on a process for people. So some of the pre-work, I think, has to be, let us examine what are the mores, the ethics, the values in the community that I am a part of. I'm quite sure if those of you that were around that group in Guyana that ended up being led by a horrific man that had people eventually commit suicide by drinking Kool-Aid. Now, in that particular community, and I hope I'm not upsetting anyone with that memory because I certainly don't mean to, but if you think about it, that particular community exerted a proliferation of ideas and mores and ethics around the power that this gentleman had. And I believe, I might be incorrect, but I believe in that particular group, him having more than one relationship with a woman was something that was valued. So people, both male and female, that grew up in this community, grew up with the idea that this kind of circumstance, this kind of relationship is something that was accepted in this community. So stay with me, ladies and gentlemen, because I want to share with you this idea that, thank you so much, Noreen. I had a little bit of a brain freeze with his name, Jim Jones. Yes. And so as we, and I think, I don't remember who said it on our panel, but as we grow up and as we begin to be imbued with different ideas, with different set of ethics and mores and values, we begin to understand some of the things that we were raised in believing, such as what went on in the Jim Jones group, were antithetical to what our mind, body, and spirit tells us is something that we need, that we are valued, and that we should not be treated in that way, even though this was very much a part of the thinking, of the experience, of how we grew up. Just as I mentioned, some of the youngsters that I had the privilege of treating were told by their mother's partner or their fathers that sexually abused by them is something that was part of their normal development as adolescents. So again, what I urge us to think about in terms of forgiveness is to begin to consider what is the what is the way in which we have been taught to think about our bodies, ourselves, our values in the community that we are part of.
I would like to jump in on that on a personal note. When I was, I did go, I don't know if I mentioned, I did go through bullying as a child. You would think, you could laugh about it now, but people would, last name Sunday, they were saying some things. And I'm like, yeah. But anyway, the point I want to say that when I was going through my process with counselors and the whole family was involved, when I was going through the process of healing and forgiving the person that did the bullying, it was a ripple effect. So when I actually stepped, and I like how I think Amy said, didn't know as a child that I was doing it, but looking back, I could say taking that control, and gratefully my parents, was the spirit of that, because I was a child, didn't know how to make decisions, but by doing that, when I got healed, when I actually went through the process, it really rippled into my whole family. Then it went actually into the neighborhood, because they would wonder, y'all just look different. People say you look different, but you, as we mentioned in this conversation, you even walk different. You even sit back in the chair different. You even have a glow, if you will, on your face. So I can say on a personal level, with my process, that I, as a child, gratefully my parents made that decision. But I like how Amy said that we have to take that control back that we didn't know we were giving away, for example. And that ripple, I like that little, you can have a visual, that little, when you put one stone in a body of water, how it goes out and out. And that I saw that happen, kind of looking back in my family. When I went through the process, the whole family, we became more close knit. We became, more, loving, more touchy feeling, if you will. And then it went to to the neighborhood, next our church, and it just continued on and on. So we, how it says, only take, I forgot who the quote, you guys know how to do it. That's right, Noreen. I like how she said that, breaking the chain. When you do that, it actually helps so many other people than we ever could even imagine. So that's what my little 2-piece on that, because I was like, you know what? That's what happened to me. It went from me and went on and on. And that's what we could do as being just one person. Because let me say this one last part. Some people think, oh, it doesn't, it's only me. It doesn't matter. But it does matter. When you go through your healing, forgiveness, and whatever case what you've been through, it helps you, it helps your family, and it continues going on and on, and generations, because Noreen just reminded me, it breaks the change, even generational.
Yes.
Thank you. Ooh, okay.
I'd
And
like to add a little to that.
Yes, and may I frame how we add, since we're wrapping up right now? Amy Sue, if you could also tie into what it is that you're about to say, what one of the most liberating things that came into your life after you truly forgave someone or yourself would be really, really helpful, as well as where people can find you out in the world and on the internet.
Okay. It'll tie in perfectly. I was going to speak about the generational. I recently am a co-author in a book called Girl Heal, and my story was about breaking generational curses, right? My son came to me. He couldn't take the abuse from his dad anymore. And though I was no longer with his father, I was still living under his abuse, just in secret. No one knew that I had still been being abused. And my son came to me on my other son's birthday, and he said, "Mom, I can't take it anymore. I gotta get out." And that moment was the moment for me that changed everything, because my love for my son was greater than my fear of his father in that moment. And so I had to choose my son. And then in doing that, it just opened up this floodgate of me being able to truly be free and to actually get away, so that I could really heal and accept the abuse and what was really going on, because I was delusional. I had been brainwashed, just like my children. We were living with there was a narcissist, and we had to take on their paradigm in order to survive. And getting out of that, then I was able to really be able to, when I got myself free, then I got to really go back and set my kids free, each one of them, right? And it wasn't until just recently that my daughter finally broke away. She was the last one. My oldest daughter was the last one to break away, because very much like me, she thought she was responsible for this person, that they would die, blah, blah, blah. All the stories that she had been told, that she had gotten in her head, right? And she finally was able to break away. And now we're all broken away. And I would say that is the greatest feeling that you have, is when you see the ripple effects, when you see how, though it was the scariest, hardest thing I ever had to do in my life, to be able to know that my children are free because I walked, to see them be able to have the life that they want, to choose who they want to be, and not have someone else controlling them anymore. They get to live life the way God created them to now, because they don't have someone else telling them how they have to live. And that is the biggest gift of me being able to break away and get free and then forgive. And I was able to forgive the person, because I know that they had their own stuff, and they didn't do it because they hate me. They did it because that's how they had to survive. That's their programming, that's their whatever, and that's okay. I no longer have to be a part of that. My love is unconditional. My presence is not. My presence does not go to people who do not respect, honor, love, and cherish me and treat me the way that God would have me be treated. And that goes for anyone. You never have to you give your presence to people that treat you the way that God would have you treated. If it's not what God would treat you, don't put yourself in that place, because you don't need to be there. And so I really learned all of that through getting through that and being able to forgive. And so honestly, just seeing those ripple effects, and it doesn't just affect your kids now, it also heals your parents and their parents. Like when you break those cycles, when you stand up and say no more, and then you're able to forgive and move forward and have a different life and a different way of being, and then your children and your children's children, and on and on and on, you're healing all those back generations as well. You're doing what they couldn't do. There's a saying that says, if you don't heal it, it lands in your kids' laps, right? So somebody stands up and says, I'm the one, and then it doesn't have to go anymore. But then when you do that, when you stop it in that whole chain, that whole entire generations, all of that family history, genealogy, that's what I was looking for. That entire genealogy changes, and it's very powerful. And so that would be my biggest piece in being able to do the forgiveness work and to really heal, was seeing that, being able to really do that in your family. It is the most rewarding thing, because you know that it's never going to happen again. It stops now because you stopped it. and your kids don't have to go through that, and their kids and their kids and their kids. It's so powerful. And I am Amy Sue, and I'm a spiritual mentor and healer. You can reach me on Facebook at just Amy Sue. And then, I'd love to have conversations with you guys, or, have a possibility call where we get together and just see what's possible. And thank you guys for listening. And I love each and every one of you on this panel. You are so powerful, and you spoke so much beautiful stuff. And I just love all you ladies. I want to connect with you all.
We're here doing this together. Thank you so much, Amy Sue. If I may direct the next to Dr. Sunday, if you could tell us about, what is the most liberating thing that came into your life after you truly forgave someone or yourself, as well as where people can find you out there in the world and on the internet.
Wow, this is so powerful. Thank you, Kay. Just listening has actually erupted and broke the chains, as Noreen said, my layers, because it is layers. Amen. Oh, I said amen. Y'all know I'm a preacher too. I am a minister. But amen, it comes through in everything I do and say. I think my most liberation was I can shine. And that what I mean by that I can step in a room and don't be shy, that I can step to the mirror and look at myself and not have any shame, not any double-mindedness, and really receive truly who, and I'm gonna say my name, not in a boastful way, Dr. Renee Sunday. Because when I went through the bullying, went through the rejection, went through all this, when I was liberated, I could say my name, and then I say it with power. And I'm so glad. Thank you, Amy, that you said that. That's exactly what it is. Speaking of that, how to contact me is on Dr. Renee Sunday on every platform, and the website is reneesunday.com, or you can put Dr. Renee Sunday and it'll still come up. But thank you so much, Kay, for this wonderful opportunity. I'm just so excited, and thank you.
Thank you. Hi, Ashley.
Hello. I would love to just close my segment here by saying that forgiveness truly allowed me to forgive and give myself the healing that was required, and to be able to conceive naturally and to birth a miracle and birth my business, because I didn't realize that all of that was within me. And so I want to offer you that speck of light and hope for yourself. And you can find me on Facebook, on Instagram, and there will always be a lotus around me as we all unfold into our own truest, best versions of ourselves.
Beautiful.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ashley, for inspiring the conversation and being brave and raising your hand and saying this needs to be spoken about. This is what we're here doing today. And I hope that that this conversation is having the impact that you had hoped for, had intended, and will continue to do as we give it more and more life as we go through this campaign. Whew, okay. Lorna, may I ask, what is the most liberating thing that came into your life after you truly forgave someone or yourself, and where people can find you?
Absolutely. And again, my thanks to Ashley and Kai and my fellow panelists. This was a liberating experience for me, having the opportunity to be able to talk about this very impactful, important, and things that I'm very passionate about. But in terms of a situation in which I felt this liberation that we are all talking about, I actually felt it as a physical type of experience. I felt a heaviness in my mind, body, and spirit about this person and situation. So this heaviness that I'm talking about felt absolutely uncomfortable and not good. And there's always a situation in which, oh, I don't want to run into this person, or I don't want to run into somebody that knows this person that's going to talk about it, and so on and so forth. So once this forgiveness took place, this heaviness, this feeling of weight, like a sack of potatoes, in my mind, body, and spirit was lifted. And I had the opportunity to feel that heaviness, that release of that heaviness. Now, in the event anyone would like to get in touch with me, I would welcome the opportunity. My website is www.lornajhines.com. In addition, I also am on Facebook and on Instagram, and I look forward to the opportunity of continuing the conversation. We don't know who is out there that has been impacted by some of the things that we have talked about. And I pray, and Reverend Sunday, I'm also Reverend Lorna J. Hines, and I am prayerfully and with faith, hope, and the understanding that we are all have the impact of this wonderful spirit, this Mother, Father, God that is here with us, I'm sure, this beautiful day, that if you're out there and you're hurting, please open the doors to the opportunity for healing for yourselves. Contact one of us, it doesn't matter, and see if you can seek some of this lift, some of this breaking the chains and cycles that you may be experiencing. And may I say in closing, God bless you all. God keep you. May you be encircled with the power of spirit that we know offers the ultimate healing that we all desire.
Thank you, Lorna, so much for your contributions and for being here. Here we go. Rhonda, would you like to bring us out with your closing and what the most liberating thing that came into your life after you truly forgave someone or yourself, and also where people can find you?
So thank you, Kai, and I'm just honored and privileged to be among this esteemed panelists. And my most liberating experience was forgiving myself. That led me on my healing journey. It impacted my mental health, my physical health, my relationships. But one of the things that it did, I was putting God first, but I learned to put Rhonda second, which made an impact on all other aspects of my life. And it also led me to discovering what God's true purpose was for me. And as a result, I became an author and a speaker. And a couple of books that I have written is A Catalyst Change, A Time to Heal, 7 Steps to Healing and Forgiveness After Sexual Abuse and Assault. And in that book, I developed the Forgive framework. And if you would like to reach out or connect with me, you can do so at yourtimetoheal.net. And again, that is yourtimetoheal.net. And I just want you to know that no matter what the circumstance, you are not alone.
Isn't that right? Yes. not us on this panel, not you who is watching and joining us in the conversation. Thank you, Rhonda, for that amazing reminder as we get ready to I don't even want to say end this conversation, because the conversation doesn't even stop here, right? We're actually just getting started, right? We are, maybe we're articulating, certain points about where it is that we came from, where it is that we're going to, what it is that we're hoping to be at cause for, and also to impact. And may this conversation continue in the most productive, influential, impactful way in real time. Okay, you can reach out to any one of these amazing women who said yes to participating in this campaign. And also the conversation gets to continue with you. How will you continue to share your story? How will you continue to uplift others and to really frame what healing and forgiveness is for you? Maybe even by being the example. So thank you so much for your time, your presence, your words, and continue to shine as Dr. Sunday has encouraged us to do. Thank you, everyone. Bye for now, and see you in the next.